Yeah, get him up here.
Oh jeez, did I do something wrong? Sorry. Perfect.
Over here. Yes. You want me to slide down? Or?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna point the camera at you now.
Okay.
And you are pretty much on air.
Oh.
So I'll do a quick little intro to who we are and why we're here, and some announcements, and we'll be ready to go. Cool. Hi everyone, I'm Cameron Cundiff. Hello. Welcome to the New York City Accessibility and Inclusive Design Meetup. I am standing in the way of captions. So we're here today to talk about Google Chrome accessibility. Before we get started with that, besides thanking you all for being here, I wanted to make an announcement about next, at the end of September, September 26th, this group is hosting the New York...
The captions are being cut off.
Okay, let's see how to adjust that. Okay, great. Somehow I think we can try to see if these captions are being cut off still. Looks good. Great. Close that. Okay. Awesome. September 26th, we are hosting the first New York City Accessibility Camp. And that's going to be in Brooklyn at the NYU's MetroTech campus. We'll be announcing it on our meetup group, which most of you have seen, I assume. And it's going to be great. We have a bunch of speakers lined up so far. We're accepting proposals. So keep an eye out on the meetup group. When we announce that, we'll also share a link on where to sign up if you want to speak. And it's a day-long event, $10 admission, so please come join us. And without further ado, I think we're ready to... And also I wanted to thank our sponsor tonight, SSB BART Group. They've graciously sponsored our wonderful captioner, Wendy, and thank you, Wendy, as well. So beyond that, I think we're ready to go. I'd like to introduce David Tseng from Google Chrome team. Today he's going to share with us some new developments with Google 92% ChromeVox. So thank you. Thank you, David. Take it away.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hi, everyone. I'm David. I'm from the Chrome and Chrome OS team at Google. And I've been working on our screen reader solution for Chrome OS for a few years now. I wanted to talk and give a brief summary of where we've been historically and kind of the new things we've been doing, and give a few demos of the new things, plus some of the older features that we think are cool in the past few years. So ChromeVox is a Google Chrome extension. It was sort of born out of the idea that we could take build a screen reader using web technologies. So taking the idea of, if any of you have heard of Content Script or something like Grease Monkey for Firefox. So basically taking some code and running it in the context of a web page. And surprisingly, that gets you really far. So you can be in a page like google.com and use APIs that are available to all web authors, and build an entire screen reader that's pretty much full-featured, just on its own, using existing web technologies. So some of the stuff we've been able to do are implement keyboard support. So if you press something like Command and Control on a Mac and the arrow keys, we can know when that happens by listening for key down events. We've been able to do things like look at the style of a page of a specific node to figure out different attributes on the visual attributes of the page and perhaps read them out. We've been able to do features that are pretty typical of screen readers, like skipping to headers and links. And the only piece that we really missed at the time, I think, was text-to-speech and Braille. So with the Chrome extension system, we were able to kind of extend things a little bit and add a few APIs that were missing and get this thing going. So ChromeVox, I think, first started in around 2011 and really hit kind of a mature state at around 2013 or so. So we run cross-platform as a Chrome extension on Windows, Mac, Linux, and Chrome OS. And that's sort of the state we've been in for a while now, up to date. And over the years, we've kind of added really neat features like Braille support on Chrome OS. We've added the ability to read math on Wikipedia and any site that supports MathJax. And we've also, I think we're the first screen reader to actually be able to work with Docs, Google Docs. All right, so kind of what's new in Chrome. I have here in front of me a Chromebook Pixel, and I'd like to, instead of talking more, I'd like to show a few features that I think are kind of neat and perhaps unique to ChromeVox, and that might be of interest to everybody, including developers who want to try out a screen reader. So,
David, I'm going to try to point the monitor or the camera at your screen. So
okay, great.
For a second. Come sit next to you. This is going to work. But
all right. So I hope we're all set.
one more.
Okay. Can I speak up? Yeah. So while we're getting set up, ChromeVox can be can be installed as an extension from the Chrome Web Store on any platform, Mac, Windows, Linux, and it comes built into Chrome OS. So on this Chromebook specifically, we've made it possible to toggle it on and off since it's built in, and that's just by using Control-Alt-Z and turn up the volume a little bit.
ChromeVox spoken feedback is ready.
And you heard a sound icon. So we use a lot of sound icons to provide feedback. So each of those usually represents some significance in the user interface, like turning on ChromeVox or the fact that you've landed on a button.
Status tray, sign out button.
So something like that. And we also announce the actual text of the button, and yeah, we say that it's a button just to not be confusing. So the ChromeVox, like many other screen readers, you use a set of modifier keys and issue lots of keyboard commands. So left our modifier keys plus arrow keys moves you basically around the screen. And so I can move really quickly back and forth across this, what we call the shelf or the system tray.
This device is UF access connected to NYPL button.
So I can kind of move through all of these controls just by using the modifier keys. And
SMS loop and stop button.
And I have the speech rate at a pretty comfortable clip, and most users have kind of this or a little bit faster even. So
window image.
And let's see. So some of the interesting features we have in ChromeVox are more tailored towards navigating the complicated world of the web. So I can go to chromevox.com and show you some of those now.
Get started.
So I'm in the location bar and I'm going to type
CHROE selected EM ARE unselect B dots M image upgrade image add people in ChromeVox.
And I've been using a very handy key, the control key, which silences speech. And so now I'm on chromevox.com, and I can navigate as I did in the Chrome of Chrome or the system tray and just use arrow keys to navigate.
ChromeVox is the following ChromeVox user guide, heading 1.
And there you heard something that we also do, which is to kind of change the pitch of the control or of the text based on certain hints that we get. So that was the label of the control, and we vary the pitch for some of those controls. And we also do that for states, certain states and roles. You also have the ability to do a continuous read, which is ChromeVox modifier keys plus R, and it'll just start reading off the entire screen. So one interesting thing we've added in the past year or so is the ability to use Chromebooks that have touch on the screen and take your finger and just slide it around the screen. So I'll show that.
ChromeVox is a screen reader. ChromeVox, learn how to get up and running with ChromeVox on.
And I'm just dragging my finger around the screen and it's reading whatever is underneath my finger. So very similar to a lot of other mobile devices, but you have a much bigger screen here, so you can really get a good feel of the layout. So if I touch at the top.
Tab list. Make group. Tab list.
I can understand that something called the tab list is at the top. And if I touch at the bottom left.
Shelf, toolbar, Google Chrome button.
I know that the shelf, something called the shelf, is at the bottom. And it really gives you kind of a new way of understanding layout as a screen reader user that we really haven't had in the past before. Peter, do you have any features you want to show off?
Yeah, I could show. There's actually one interesting feature. So before I start doing that, I'm going to tell you that my name is Peter Lundblad. I'm working out of the office, the Google office in Stockholm, in Sweden. But I'm visiting New York for a few weeks now. So, and I'm also, like David, I'm working on the Chrome operating system, ChromeVox, and I've been working on Braille support and also on the text-to-speech support. One interesting feature with the touch screen that we added was, so as you hear when we approach the edge here,
ChromeVox user guide. ChromeVox is a screen reader for Chrome which brings the speed, versatility, and security of Chrome to visually. You
can actually hear that there is different sound icons for doing that. If I now approach the right edge though.
ChromeVox is available as an extent. Volume slider.
It allows me to adjust the volume just by dragging on the right side of the screen. And I think that's pretty cool. That's actually using the touchscreen for something more than it was, just exploring. So another thing you can do on the touchscreen instead of moving around is to actually swipe.
Box accessibility. List with 2 items, list item. Installing.
So here we are entering a list, and then I continue to swipe right. So this is similar to how you do it on a mobile device.
ChromeVox is an extend list item, enabling ChromeVox. Learn how to get up and running with ChromeVox on 96%.
I'm going to adjust the volume a little bit. And if I found something to click on.
Using ChromeVox, heading 2.
So there is a heading.
List with 4 items. This tutorial.
I could also double tap the screen to actually click. So this is in addition to the keyboard commands. Now, it depends on what kind of device you're using. I don't know if you've heard about these newer devices where you can actually turn it around, and this is not one of them, but there is devices where you can totally turn the screen 360 degrees, and then you get rid of the keyboard basically, and more or less get something that looks a little bit like a tablet. So talking more about navigation, we have some interesting commands. So for example, in ChromeVox, there is a feature that's something like we call search as you type, or incremental search, depending on what you want to call it. So if I press the modifier key and slash.
Find in page, enter a search query.
Now I can just be typing and jump directly to that item. So say I wanted to look for navigation.
This tutorial is intent list item, NAV, navigating with ChromeVox, link heading 3.
Navigating with ChromeVox. So that I could just, by typing a few letters, just jump directly to navigating with ChromeVox. I can press enter to dismiss this search widget.
Exited, find in page, list item, navigating with ChromeVox, link heading 3.
And now as you hear, I'm on the link.
Navigating with ChromeVox.
And I can just hit enter to go to that link. If I wanted to look at the headers of the page, I would just press modifier keys and issue other commands.
Navigating with ChromeVox, heading 1. Basic navigation, heading 2.
If I wanted to know more about basic navigation, I would just hold down the modifiers and press down arrow.
The browser chimes when a page has finished loading and is ready for you to navigate.
Okay, that's how ChromeVox works. So those are some of the ChromeVox features, both including touch and keyboard navigation. And I think now David is going to tell you a little bit more about what's coming next.
Right. So you've heard a lot of the things we've been able to do, and we've done a lot with. Do you want to switch back?
No, you're fine.
Okay. And you've heard a lot about a lot of what we've been able to do, which has been really great. We've been able to implement just about every feature that we really wanted. There were some lessons that we learned with injecting a content script. So we've run into some really fundamental issues. Part of them is that on any given page, we're actually running kind of a separate instance of ChromeVox within each iframe. So bottom line is technically it became very challenging to support this type of model and really get stability to a point where we were happy with it. So it kind of manifested itself into issues where navigation would get stuck sometimes, and you issued a command to read the page continuously, it would just not finish and loop around forever. So those were issues that we really just couldn't get around, and they were really fundamental limitations of kind of the strategy that we were using. So for that reason, and also to take Chrome accessibility and the support that we have for other platforms, which we do have support for your more traditional screen readers like JAWS on Windows and other screen readers on Windows and VoiceOver on Mac. And take that infrastructure and rebase ChromeVox on top of that. So we've been doing that for the past year and a half or so, and we have that running on Chrome OS in limited context now, and it's providing us with a great opportunity to kind of rethink the way ChromeVox works, and also to kind of have a faster cycle of feeding back improvements or enhancements that we want throughout our entire accessibility stack. So that's what's coming, and you can actually run it with a few disclaimers on Chrome OS now. So that's what's coming, and thank you so much for listening. And if there are any questions, we'd all be happy to. If you had something else to add.
Yeah, I'd just like to mention that since we've been mentioning, so we have been showing speech today, but we've been also mentioning Braille a few times. So I just wanted to mention again that we actually do support both speech and Braille. So if you have a refreshable Braille display that connects to USB, you can connect it to the Chromebook device, and it will turn on ChromeVox, and you can use either the Braille display or the keyboard or the touchscreen to navigate on the screen, and it will all be reflected both in spoken feedback and on the Braille display. Further, you can also edit and enter and edit text in any web page using either Computer Braille or Grade 2 or Unified English Braille, if you prefer that. So this support also exists for most Braille displays on the market, and we are working on adding more Braille displays as well. So, and with that, if there are any questions, we are more than happy to answer them.
Thomas, one question I had is I really like the feature with the volume bar touch gesture. So from the, was the earcon, is there an earcon that identifies that you're in that region when you're doing that? And then is there an idea for extensibility for, like, if I was a web developer, would I have a way to add a function that could use that interface?
So let's answer the first question, the first part of the question by just doing it again. So if I adjust the volume with a keyboard,
88% volume slider, 84%.
You hear that there is a sound whenever you modify the volume, and if I touch the right edge of this, or close to the right edge of the screen,
volume slider.
You hear the same sound, but it's coming like you hear the sound all the times. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to extensibility, maybe you want to expand on that, David?
I could take that one. So as far as I know, there's no current web standards other than maybe something like Oral CSS, which isn't supported by any current browser. But if you do use ARIA to mark up ARIA roles to mark up your widgets, you know, you'll get some number of earcons, at least for ChromeVox, and I guess other screen readers play other sets of earcons that may not be related to the control types, but we will definitely have earcons for specific roles.
We're also asking about like access to touch.
Yeah, like could I, if I had my own video player in my app, like use that gesture or somehow expose that?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's really cool. Like I think it's all just from the things that you demonstrated.
So
yeah,
we don't have any current plans. I think it's a great idea though that we could maybe take back and think about.
When you say you ask the computer to read the page, you said sometimes it doesn't go through the whole page, it jumps around. I don't know much about coding, but how do you detect that? If it's all text, what causes it to break away? What bump did it hit? Was there a diagram instead of a letter? I'm just curious.
You may try.
Yeah, you want to take that?
So hi, my name is Dominic. I'm the tech lead for Chrome accessibility, and I'll try to tackle that one because that's a tricky one. It's a technical issue, but the web is designed to allow you to build up a web page or a web application out of pieces that might come from other places. And I'll give you a really common example. If you're on a news article, you may have encountered a news article that has a Facebook like button on it. And you can go to the Facebook like button and you can click like. And that like button knows who you are because you're already signed into Facebook. And the web is implemented in this careful way so that Facebook knows you're on that news article and it knows who you are, but the news article doesn't know that you're signed into Facebook. And so the web browser is playing this role where it's talking to the news site and it's talking to Facebook, but it's not letting them know about each other more than they want to share. And that's protecting your privacy. And the technical challenge we have with ChromeVox is that we have one version of ChromeVox running inside this little Facebook button. We have another version running outside it. And in that particular case, it works fine. But more and more, we're seeing complicated web applications that have built up a lot of these frames. And if web developers are doing tricky things with those, moving them around, rearranging, or having interactive things happening, it was becoming impossible for all of the different copies of ChromeVox to talk. So at a really high level, the next version of ChromeVox that we've been working on for a long time and starting to make available here, there's just one ChromeVox running that can see the whole screen. It's sort of operating at a different level. So I hope that helps.
No, I appreciate that. Is it a matter of different languages that, I mean, if you're working under Facebook, I don't know what language they use to code, but then you incorporate that into a different program.
That's a great question. It's not a question of a different programming language. It's a question of where ChromeVox lives. Right now, ChromeVox lives inside the web page, and in the new version, it lives outside the web page where it can essentially see everything at once. That's the best way I can describe it.
I'm going to pause this here and see maybe we can go to the next round of discussion.
Yeah.
For the sake of time. Alice, are you please a round of applause for Dave.
15% off this one. Cool. Thanks so much. Present.
Hi there, my name is Alice. I'm also on the Chrome accessibility team with all of these guys. I'm going to talk about sort of my, sorry, I'll just sit down. Okay, is that good? All right. Yes, so I'm going to talk about sort of my area of interest, which is in debugging accessibility. So I came into the accessibility team not really knowing anything much about accessibility and have been learning about it. And sort of as I've gone, I've felt like there's really a big gap in terms of tooling. There's all these kind of piecemeal tools that all sort of do bits and pieces, but you really need a lot of deep expertise to use most of them, to understand what they're telling you. So I'm going to sort of talk a bit about my feelings on this, what I've been working on and what I am working on. So this is a presentation that I gave a little while ago. So the slides are sort of geared towards a longer presentation, but I'll just go through it anyway. All right, so this is a picture of a JavaScript debugger. As developers, we're sort of like, this is the experience we're used to, where it's going to tell us that we've done something wrong. In this case, I've tried to use a function that doesn't exist in JavaScript. It's drawn a red squiggly line, and it's cut off by the captions, but it's telling me in the console that this doesn't exist. We also have in sort of Chrome developed tools in Firebug, we're really used to this really nice display of CSS where we can see the stack of inherited, overridden CSS and sort of figure out how all those things work. So it's a learning tool as well as a debugging tool. When it comes to accessibility, I mean, as I was saying, there's all these tools that kind of are piecemeal, but you have to know to find them, you have to know how to use them. So I've got a screenshot here of the accessibility inspector on Mac, which it lets you look at the accessibility tree, but it's dry, it's kind of fiddly. It only allows you to see like part of the accessibility tree at once. It's really an expert tool. I've also got just a screenshot of Chrome developer tools, but looking at a custom element which has a role of radio, and like, you know, I know many of you probably know, looking at this, that this is going to be exposed in the accessibility tree. It's going to be exposed to screen readers and assistive technology as a radio button, but there's like nothing here is telling me that. I just have to know that. And I also have to go through, look at all of these like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 attributes on this element to figure that out, figure out that it's got a role of radio, it's got ARIA checked false, it's got an ARIA label, it's got a tab index of 0, which means it's going to be focusable. Like all of that information is there, but I need to know how to interpret it. There's also the issue of text computation, so figuring out what label the things are going to have. And again, like I've sort of internalized this thing because I've been working on this for the last 4 years, but it's a big ask for the average web developer to understand the text alternative computation algorithm that browsers implement and sort of the different sources that text alternatives can come from. And finally, we've got color contrast. So again, there are like really great tools out there to do it, but they're not sort of integrated into our workflow. It's kind of, you've got to go to the website, you've got to like pick the color, you've got to copy the hex code, you've got to copy the hex code for the background color, and then it's going to tell you. And then what do you do with it? You can't tweak it. You can't say, okay, what color is going to give me the right contrast ratio? So again, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of expertise to actually do these things. So my sort of mission at the moment is to make accessibility touchable, just as JavaScript, CSS, DOM are all sort of things that we can interact with using our regular tooling. So I've got a screenshot here of the accessibility developer tools extension, which I developed, showing that we've got an invalid ARIA role, we've got an ARIA label. It's showing us that we've got an acceptable contrast ratio of 13.38. It's showing us that the element has a tab index of 0, it's focusable, it's not visible, and it's hidden, so it's working well. And it's showing us that this thing has a couple of potential text alternative sources, and that the ARIA label has overridden the content of the element, although they're actually the same thing. So it's giving us a lot of information all in like one small area, which is kind of what I was going for. So that's the accessibility developer tools extension. So as I was saying, it allows you to validate your ARIA, it allows you to debug color issues, it allows you to look at focus and visibility issues, and it shows you the text computation algorithm. It also has an audit built into it as well, but I'm not going to talk about that so much. There are a lot of really good accessibility audit and linting tools out there. This, I believe, is one of them, but I'm not going to argue that it's better or worse than anything else. I'm talking mostly just about the debugging piece right now. So going through those categories, we've got starting off with ARIA. This is a screenshot of showing that someone has tried to use like a CSS selector style attribute for ARIA active descendant. And again, like I know many of you know that that's not going to work, but the average web developer, they're used to using CSS selectors when they want to specify an ID. It's sort of how a lot of other things work. So, and they have no way to debug that that's not actually going to work without sort of actually firing up a screen reader and then just sort of trial and error testing, okay, does it work or not? So this is just a really quick way to say, no, this isn't working. And it's also showing that it's got a role of menu, which is working. Another cool thing is once you fix that issue, so say I were to go in, I can go in using Chrome DevTools, fix that ID ref, and then it's going to show up, it's going to get rid of the little warning icon, it's going to show up as a link, which my giant pointing hand logo is going to show that you can click. And then it's going to navigate, sort of focus, inspect that element, so then we can look at the properties of that element. So in this case, we've got an invalid role. It's trying to give it a role of item instead of list item. And again, for those of us that haven't internalized the entire ARIA spec, no way to figure that out. And then we can fix that up and the warning icon goes away. Another thing that it can do is tell you when the role that you've applied has certain, so as many of you know, a lot of ARIA roles require certain properties to be set. So in this case, we've got the slider role, which requires ARIA value max, value min, and value now. And it's telling us, okay, you haven't set these properties, you need to go in and set them. So these issues would all come up in the audit, but this allows you to sort of like interactively fix it and see it being fixed right there in the sidebar as you go along. Right, so this is showing a new experiment built into Chrome DevTools, so you don't need to install an extension, built right into the browser. It's available in Canary channel or Dev channel now. If you go in, you need to switch it on. So that's a little bit involved. So first of all, you need to go to Chrome flags, turn on the enable developer tools experiments flag, restart. It'll prompt you to restart. Then you open DevTools, go to the settings icon, which is the gear icon. Turn on so you go to the experiments tab on the side. It's just on the left there. Turn on the accessibility inspection experiment, restart it, and you end up with this extra sidebar pane here. Cool. Awesome, I'm excited about it. So, all right, so this is, so far all it does is just expose the accessibility tree. So much like the accessibility inspector on Mac or similar applications on Windows, in this case, it actually just shows you the current accessibility node. So in this case, we're inspecting an element that that has a role of menu, and it's telling us it has a role of menu and it has an active descendant, which again we can click. So very much like the extension, except that this is actually based off the accessibility tree as built up by Blink, which is Chrome's rendering engine. So this is the ground truth. This isn't something that the extension is kind of trying to figure out based on its own logic. This is actually what the browser will expose to assistive technology. And to prove that, here is an actual link, an anchor tag with an href that is being exposed as a link. So if we were to have that anchor tag without an href, we would see that it would come up as probably a role of group or possibly just not exposed at all. All right, so moving on to color. This is the extension. So you can, it's kind of, a lot of people have trouble telling the difference between the extension and the built-in experiment, and that's totally understandable, but the extension has a title of accessibility properties, and the built-in one has a title of just accessibility, and they look a little bit different. But that's it, so there's a lot of confusion. So this is the extension. It's showing us here, we've got an element with a low contrast ratio of 3.89, and the extension gives us some color suggestions. So you can actually click, so it gives you a suggestion for the AA and the AAA level, and you can actually click those and it will apply it in the page so you can see what it looks like. In the experiment, you can actually turn on a separate experiment for the contrast ratio line in the color picker. So DevTools has a color picker built in. If you're editing any color properties, it looks roughly like this, except I've added the line. So yeah, if you click on any color swatch in DevTools, sometime down the line, or if you turn on this experiment, it'll show you this line. And so one side of the line will be low contrast, the other side of the line will be acceptable contrast, which means that you can sort of you can drag around, and as long as you stay on the right side of the line, your contrast is okay. So this is coming soon to a browser near you. Oh yeah, and this is what happens when you move the sliders. I just think it looks awesome. I had so much fun with this. Okay. All right, moving on. Okay, so text computation. So yeah, as I said, many of us have sort of internalized the text computation algorithm, and we could tell you, oh, for this role, it's going to be name from author, and from this role, it's going to be name from contents, but it's a lot to ask the average web developer or even the average accessibility expert. So yeah, I kind of covered this. The extension gives you the potential sources. In this case, it's saying we've got an aria labeled by attribute that is invalid. There is no element with an ID of foo. So it's saying, okay, this one isn't used because it's not valid. So it'll drop down to the next one, which is aria label. The aria label filters, and then the content is also filters, but we're saying that's been overridden. So much like the CSS panel where we see things that are overridden crossed out, so we just do the same thing. This is in the experiment. So again, it's going to do a similar thing, except that again, this is the ground truth from the browser. So we've actually gone in and instrumented our text computation code to build up all of the potential text sources that we might have used and sort of whether they're valid or not, and whether they're used or not. So yeah, in this case, we've gone through looking at this particular element, which has a role of text. So it's probably just like a static text field. It could have an aria labeled by, but it doesn't. It could have an aria label, but it doesn't. So we fold back down to contents. Similarly, we have a text box. So this is probably like an input type equals text or something that does have an aria labeled by as well as an aria label. So the aria label is crossed out because it's not used. The aria labeled by, we have one element that you can click and go to the element, just like in the extension. And lastly, we have a mixed aria labeled by value. So we've got two ID refs that exist, one ID ref that doesn't exist. So the one that doesn't exist is crossed out. It has a warning logo, but the other ones you can see are used. All right, focus. Obviously a really big part of accessibility. It's something that I don't feel like has been really addressed that well. And I don't feel like I've addressed it that well either. So in the extension, you can see whether something has a tab index. And we also try to give you some information on whether it's visible or not. This is because we found for things like modal dialogues, you often end up in a place where things are not hidden to accessibility that should be. So you have like a modal dialogue and things behind it are still visible, which can create a really confusing experience. I see like a lot of people nodding. So this is sort of trying to address that issue and to help you sort of debug that type of issue and to show you whether the element is actually hidden from accessibility or not. Kind of, yeah, it's sort of minimal functionality. In the experiment, there is nothing there yet. What I would love to do, and I would love your comments once I'm finished, is sync the inspected element to the active element in the document. So as you tab through the document, the inspected element will sync up with that. So you can actually observe your tab order in the document and in the DevTools kind of side by side. I think that would get us kind of a lot of the way there to debugging like focus issues, because I don't know about you, but the amount of times that I've added an event listener on the document body for focus change to like see what's being focused because the focus styles haven't showed up, it's like my entire life. All right, lastly, the accessibility tree. So this is just, so I've really gone through what the extension does in terms of the accessibility tree. Yes, the extension, this is the experiment. They both start with EX, it's really confusing me. The experiment gives you the information for the current node. So this is just a regular node. You get its properties, you get the computed text. I feel like I left some content out there, but maybe it'll show up later on. I also put a lot of time into showing up reasons why nodes don't make it into the accessibility tree. So for example, here we've got an element with display none. So that's not going to be exposed in the accessibility tree because it's not rendered. So when, I often see this advice to add aria hidden on elements with display none. And I'm pretty sure that's now completely out of date. I don't think any screen readers require that anymore. So you can see here that the browser really isn't going to expose that element to accessibility. We've got this one's cool. Another example here, we've got a label element, which is not exposed because it's used as a label for something else. And so that other element just kind of like absorbs the label element, which is pretty neat. And you can also click there's like a link to the element that is the label for you, so you can like verify that it's used as the label. Another example is array hidden. So in this case, we've got an array hidden on the body, which means that nothing in the page is going to be exposed to accessibility. So, and that, you know, obviously array hidden inherits down to anything below. So any ancestor with array hidden is going to show up in this reasons sidebar, and you can click it and see that. And finally, we've got the catch-all element not interesting for accessibility. So actually, like I was tempted to go through and like give all the reasons why things aren't interesting, and then Dominic sort of talked me out of it. He's like, no, just put a placeholder. It doesn't matter. Those are all heuristics. So essentially anything which is like a div or a span, doesn't have a role, doesn't have like a label, is not going to be exposed because there's elements sort of above and below it in the hierarchy that are going to provide useful information. All right, what I would like to see eventually, and what I am working on, is showing the full accessibility tree in DevTools. Potentially side by side with the DOM tree. It's sort of like there's, as many of you know, there's like very limited real estate in DevTools, and so what we can do is kind of constrained by what we can fit. And I also think it would be really neat to be able to interactively filter the tree by focusability. So only show me the focusable elements in the tree, by role or abstract role. So you could do like filter by landmark, filter by heading, filter by link. So that gives you sort of basically like the voiceover rotor functionality, just like built into DevTools. So you can see what's going to be exposed to things like the rotor, or any screen reader that allows you to jump by landmark, jump by link, jump by heading. And that's all I've got. So that other content, I don't know where it went. But anyway, cool. Questions, comments?
Does the experiment only imply that would, once it does get approved, it would be in the Chrome build? Is that?
Absolutely. That is 100% the end state of it. It's an experiment for now because it's still baking. Yeah. Yes.
There's a feature that I noticed in Chrome DevTools the other day, which is that if you are serving local files, that DevTools will allow you to sync your changes, like in the inspector to your local file system. Will that work with any of the accessibility extension like adjustments? So like if you click change the color contrast, it would update the element in the inspector.
I see.
Would it sync back to your file system?
Good question. I'm pretty sure it does. I'm pretty sure that, yeah, because you're changing, I think it allows you to change the style sheet. Yeah. And then if you've matched the style sheet, then it'll sync back.
That's amazing. That's really cool. I mean, just to put a finer point on that, that means that you could potentially like just adjust, like accept changes kind of thing.
So that is I'm talking about the experiment now, the color picker with the line. Yeah. So not the experiment, because the experiment, sorry,
not the extension.
Doing it again, not the extension. Because the extension just applies a style attribute on the element. It doesn't modify the style sheet.
Okay.
Because modifying the style sheet is a huge pain in the ass.
Sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. For an extension. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
I have a question. Can we get that little contrast line to go into like all the tools that all designers use? Because that would be awesome.
Sure, I'll just wave my wand. Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, we can. Sorry?
I said I can help be loud about that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it catches on. Basically, yeah, I think it looks cool and it's very useful.
Yes.
The sort of the tricky part about it is that it relies on having the background color. Yeah. And it also relies on knowing that it's a text element. So not all tools that designers use are going to have either of those things, because obviously like contrast ratio isn't necessarily relevant if you're like designing a gradient or something. Yeah. So it's sort of like it's a context sensitive thing.
Can you release that as a web app? Really cool.
Tseng. This is the line. Is that double A?
It's double A. Yeah. So I think I don't know, we talked about like allowing you to configure AA or AAA. I think for like, to begin with, it'll just be AA until someone yells at us. Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a question about the content. The content accessibility.
Content.
So the tool can recognize that if someone adds a word to alt text, to images, because often people will add the wrong word. And also if people add audio or video, can the tool say that that's not accessible? With captions and making sure that people are adding the right text and not just adding the auto captions. Is there a tool that can catch that?
I know my tool certainly doesn't. I mean, it's quite a difficult problem, right? Because it requires you to know what the right thing is, and the point of alt text and caption is to tell you what the right thing is. So there's kind of like, sort of like it's a machine learning kind of problem where you have to be able to look at the thing and then look at the text and say, okay, does this text in any way match this thing? And it's a bit of a judgment call, I think, a lot of the time. So we can do like very minimal checking. We can say, okay, there's no alt text and that's a problem. We can say there's no captions and that's a problem. But we can't really check whether the alt text or the captions match the thing that they're describing. Does that answer your question?
So you already have a tool already that can detect whether or not there's alt text that's missing?
Yeah, that's very simple, yeah.
Because I'm wondering if that can be connected with YouTube.
For the captions?
Because so many video producers are lazy.
And
And they'll just rely on using the automatic caption.
Yeah.
So it would force people then to actually caption their videos because usually people think they can just click on the automatic captions and then that's accessibility and they're done.
Right. I guess that would probably need to be a feature for YouTube. So because obviously it's very straightforward for YouTube to know whether someone has uploaded their own captions. So they could, it would need to be a feature of YouTube rather than a feature of the browser. But that's definitely something that we could pass on. And Laura's taking notes.
All right, time for maybe one or two more questions. And then the library's going to kick us up.
Yeah.
This is all super new to me. I was asking over there. I didn't even know what ARIA was. So, sorry, this is all super new to me. I hadn't heard of ARIA for this. So you were talking about being able to inspect the ARIA tree and the DOM tree separately. Could you give an example of like when there's a big difference besides just some stuff in the DOM and not in the ARIA tree?
Big difference. I mean, the example I showed where, okay, this one where you've got ARIA hidden on the body means that there is essentially no accessibility tree. But what you would often see is something like the example I gave with the modal dialogue. So in that case, the accessibility tree should just be the dialogue and nothing else, no other content. Whereas the DOM tree will have like everything. You're also going to have like any any DOM which has display none or visibility hidden is not going to show up in the accessibility tree. And that may be large parts of the DOM depending how the page is constructed. Yeah, so it's never going to be radically different. It's, you know, because it's very much based off the DOM, but it can look quite different depending what's visible, hidden, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I missed something, but I've been constructing accessibility trees manually and kind of think of it abstract. Is there a tool that will generate one?
How do you mean generate? Sorry.
Is there a tool that will generate accessibility trees? It's really just what you're talking about. The product you're talking about is the only thing that does it.
I'm sorry. I don't follow what you mean by generate. So you can.
When the accessibility tree, you're talking about the elements that are accessible to a reader and the path that's using an accessible software device can use to interact with the content.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about accessibility tree, that's what you mean.
Yeah, exactly.
So is there a tool out there? And what I'm saying is that when I'm working with accessibility sites, I generally just build something out in Illustrator or something that shows those relationships.
Oh, to visualize the accessibility tree.
There's a tool that's out now that can visualize the relationships, or if that's just.
So there is, I was trying to get back to the start of my presentation. If I stop presenting, maybe it'll let me. There is, in fact, let's see if Cameron has it enabled. Yeah. So there is an accessibility inspector for Mac. Can I do it? Okay. Haha. Oh no, I'm gonna need to type a password here, aren't I? Yeah.
I'm gonna
I would have been more impressed if you just typed it in.
Impressed or scared?
Yeah.
All right, accessibility inspector. Okay, all right, here we go. So this is the accessibility inspector. It works, yeah, it works on all UI. But yeah, obviously in this case, it's telling us we're looking at a cell. So the thing that I've hovered over, it's telling, yeah, sorry, let me see if I can make this bigger. Oh, I can't resize it. Yeah, I can't resize it. That's unfortunate. But yeah, in this case, we're looking at a cell inside of a row, inside of a table, inside of a scroll layer, inside of a group, inside of a tab group, inside of a window, inside of an application. You get the idea. And it tells us the attributes as well. And then you can Command F7. And then that means that I can sort of like, I can examine around in that without it sort of like hovering anything. So that's one tool. There's A viewer for Windows. There's a few other ones around that, like, yeah, that allow you to sort of visualize the accessibility tree. So, well, no, it works on web content as well. So this slide, hang on, do it. Slide presentation, although actually.
Yeah, in the content.
On. No. Yes, that's on. I'm really bad at toggle buttons. So, okay, now we can see that we can explore around the web content, and it's the same accessibility tree. Yeah. Cool. And I think that may have been our last question.
I think so, yeah, actually.
Cool.
Yeah, so just to say thank you. Sorry, the Google Accessibility Team. This is our most well-attended meetup to date, and so we really appreciate you all coming and sharing what you all have been working on. Every time too, we're kind of working on our technology. Our goal always with this meetup is to be as accessible as possible with text on top. Is the technology actually the word text on top? Is the name of the technology that we're using today? We were attempting doing a Hangout as well, so one of our goals as we keep working with the meetup is to make this available for people that might not be able to come on site for any reason. So obviously we're still working through items with that, but we appreciate any of your feedback on helping us improve that. And as Cameron mentioned at the beginning of the meetup, our camp is coming up on September 26th. It will be New York York City's first accessibility camp. It's going to be presentations from 9 to 5. And right now we have a limited number of seats, so if you're interested in coming, please register. And if you're interested in speaking, also from the same form, there's a form to submit a speaker presentation as well. So we're still collecting those. Thanks everyone for coming tonight. Thank you to the New York Public Library, as always, being a host for us tonight. We really appreciate that.
We have an absolute limit on being in here of another, like 7 o'clock. Like they will shut the lights off. So afterwards, we're gonna migrate over to features, where we're gonna just mingle. You're welcome to join us, and we'll hang out there for a bit. But we will need to leave the space presently. So thanks everyone for coming. Alice, thank you.
Yeah.